Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, hosted by me, Mama Callion, and my good friend Matt Goddard. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, really well. Good to be back in London, back settled. How about yourself? You've been on the road this week again, haven't you?
Yeah, although obviously last week when we were doing this together, that was peak. Yes, no, it is actually quite nice to be sitting still and not actually, yes, raging at some driver in front of me. It's nice. So we have got yet another packed show for our listeners this week. And yeah, we're going to kick off very quickly with our property news. All right, so this week to start, we've got some big beasts of the UK property market basically flexing. We've got Foxtons who are getting stuck into what Guy Gittins, their CEO, is calling phase two of their plan for certainly southeastern domination, if not world domination just yet. What's he been saying?
It's a bit of an incredible comeback, really, isn't it? When you look at how things have turned around for them. And even this morning, I saw the green minis are becoming more and more obvious back on the roads. From what I understand, they were down to 40 at one point, and a number of little yellow smart car type things buzzing around. But seeing the brand so dominant again and back in the headlines in a positive way is good. But this time, it's talking about the further expansion and the target, not just on the areas within the M25, but those sort of strong markets outside of London, or certainly out of London commuter belts, via both organic growth by the sound of things and acquisition.
Yeah, and I hesitate to say that. Does their growth chime with when you left? Is that when it started to go?
And that's when it went downhill.
Oh, really? Okay. Got it now. So yeah, no, look, Guy Gittins, the team he's put together have done phenomenal things, haven't they, over in Foxtons. There were some activist investors last year trying to get it sold off and broken up and all that sort of thing, but they've stuck to their guns, powered ahead. Obviously, Peter Rollins is chair. It's just been it's almost like the old guard coming back in and just doing some real proper estate agency, and lettings agency, isn't it?
That's exactly it. It's gone back to being an estate agency, has it, rather than I think it got a bit, not bloated, that's the wrong term, but a bit corporate, very high basics and very low commissions rather than targeting salespeople the way that they want to work, which is exactly that. Earn good money for putting in the hours and doing a really good job. And it is quite interesting because one of the things you joked there about when I left, but one of the areas we were looking at just before the business floated was what would that strategy be? And it was 100 offices within the M25 and then 50 in that Outer London Commuter Belt, or OLCB, to give it an acronym, because everything needs an acronym. And looking at places, they've already acquired Haslam's over in Reading, haven't they? And looking at places like Winchester and some of these strong, affluent markets that are still within an hour's shot of London and have that awareness of the brand. Because I was on a train back from Edinburgh a previous couple of days, and the people sat across from me were commuting in and out of Winchester to London every day. So it's one of those areas you could see the sort of what's it called, the acquisition of the vendor, because of
Yeah.
that awareness is actually lower.
Yeah, and that's right. And if you look at the kind of almost the migration routes of people who are perhaps young, working in London, and then as they get older and couple up and then go off and have babies, then it's exactly if they understand Foxton's in the middle of London and then they go out to Winchester or Croydon or wherever and see another Foxton's, then there's that kind of recognition, brand recognition,
Mm,
ability to understand what they stand for. And I don't know if they're still punching at 2.38% in terms of their average fees, but I think it's certainly one of their kind of calling cards remains that we're quality. I think that the catchment is get the job done.
it
So
is.
yes, you will pay a little bit more, but we will get the job done. We will get you more for your property. And again, I think that does return to that kind of that age when agents did used to get 2% plus and were price proud and able to differentiate themselves on the quality of their service and point to different things that they're doing. And for a long time, I've been very focused on the idea that the portals particularly, which tend to be the sort of front facing for many people when they enter the property market, almost homogenized all agencies. You get a little tiny logo and you get X number of characters to describe yourselves, and then that's pretty much it, and everything else
Mm.
is the brand of the portal. So it's just really great to see a brand standing for something. And I think a lot of agents out there, if you look at the brands that your own values, your own mission, vision, and really put that front and center, then I think that can be a real attractor and can actually then mean that you can charge more.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. And if you, well, the people who have that situation where it's a case of the vendor says, "Come on, can you do something on my price? Do you want me to negotiate on the price that I'm selling your home for? Do you want me to hold firm on that valuation that you want?" But and the other one that came up last week, and it's one that we're not seeing anything from, or certainly I hadn't picked up on anything from, is the BM that is the Connells / Countrywide
Yeah.
acquiring Aspire in Southwest London.
Yeah, no, and you're right that they've been a bit quiet as the transition from Dave Plumtree to Helen Charlesworth, they've settled in now. Yeah, you can see them. They now come out swinging. There's been a lot of it's almost while they were quietened. You've got Lomans, you've had Dexter's, you've had like all these other ones going and grabbing some real high quality agencies almost from under their noses. So yeah, it looks like the big beast is back and is willing to invest some of the enormous cash.
That's it.
As
You
they
almost thought that like they've been usurped by these new kids in town, as you say, the Lomans, the Amirias, the LRGs. But no, they're back, and Spiro, a great brand, sort of those 5 offices around the sort of the Ballams and the Fulhams and that sort of area, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I'm sure that yeah, if you've got a high quality independent estate agent with a few branches in a very tasty location, you are being suited by a variety of different agencies right now. Yeah, I'm sure that yes, it's a good time, but obviously particularly with the letting side, I think is the main draw. All right, so moving on from the big corporates, we wanted to have a little look at the kind of the property technology angle with what is being claimed to be the UK's first full digital purchase transaction. Now, obviously really interesting in terms of if it is possible to transact digitally and then you fast forward a few years and you imagine that happening everywhere, then that changes so much. It obviously has the potential to speed things up. I was slightly dubious about whether it really was the first fully digital one. I'm sure I heard last year that others like Cojute and others were playing around in the same space. What's your take?
Last week, last year, it's often when you see it in the marketing information, it's a bit misaligns with what you might have read previously. And in the same way that we had a few episodes ago, and you said about the juxtaposition of Zoopla had come out saying it was the best second portal next to On the Market advertising, and On the Market came out saying it was the best second next to Zoopla branding. So it's you can't always trust what you read in the press, right?
You can't trust it. No way.
Yeah, I know it's bizarre, isn't it? But even so, it's Joe Pepper, isn't it, who's now at PEXA, and they're the ones who are claiming this first digital transaction. Joe previously had been at TM Group, and any steps towards digitizing even part of the journey is a real strong progress on these. So it's good to see that, and that the more that we can actually do around that space, obviously, the better when we're looking at 3 to 4 month timelines between offer accepted and completion. And obviously, that's when it's going well. Having been up in Edinburgh over the last week and knowing obviously how their market works, sort of that's the sort of speed we want to aspire to, right?
Yeah, and then what's the differential right now? How fast are our northern cousins going?
Right, they were within weeks, if not days.
Yeah, and this is the system that we are wedded to, tied to, is so antiquated. And there's this example literally within a few miles of where up in the north they're struggling to grind through all of these transactions, just looking over the border, going, "This is just so stupid."
Yeah,
So, yeah, absolutely agree with you. I think anything that kind of gets us faster, closer to that transactions being able to happen almost in real time, then that's really where we need to get to. So yeah, big props to the guys at PEXA for actually getting this over the line, even if it may not be the technically first, but yeah, there will probably be some little element of it that actually backs up their claim. So good on them. Right, next up, there's been some activity down under
but it's
with
actually it's actually down under and up here as well, isn't it? We've got Reach, Australia and New Zealand had their top of the props pitch battle. I don't know if that's 8 Mile where they're spitting, is it spitting rhymes is how the youths call it?
all it,
There's
yes.
some beats, but they had their Reach all capital, so it's like I need to be shouting Reach at you, but they had their end of year awards and battle for the sort of 6 or 7 prop techs that have been highlighted for investment alongside over here, Reach announcing its new should we say alumni? Or there's people coming in from the UK. So phenomenally, Reach, which is a VC-backed accelerator group that provides training guidance to 6 or 7 prop techs every year, both here, America, and in Australia and New Zealand, has had its latest cohort. There we go. That's the word I was grasping for, announced in the UK, while the Australian and New Zealand groups graduated. Obviously, leading up to the pun, they've got a significant reach in terms of what they deal with.
Bravo. Yeah, and I think that they've got a real kind of tight tie up with Property Mark as well, haven't they, over here? And Property Mark One conference happening on Friday, and we're both going, aren't we? So
Well, that's it. It's Friday, just to make sure that it's for anyone listening to the back catalogue. Friday 18th, Friday the 13th of June, 2025.
because we know you're probably dialing back 2027 and things are very different out there. But yes, we're still doing the Property Mark conference. It's great.
Yes.
It's not in space. So yeah, we're going to be there. Looking forward to it very much. Anybody wants to come and have a chat, very, very good to see you all. But yes, the Reach tie-up is, I think, really quite powerful and obviously supercharges some really decent prop tech businesses and allows them to get out into places that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily be able to. So yeah,
I
no,
know certainly Steve Raddat Inventory Base has really gone global with his offering and pivoted it almost into a CRM for that commercial space and seems to spend most of his time in America. And it's not just because of the Disney cruises that he enjoys is going on. It's good for business too. So I think is it NAR as well, a part of that VC
right.
backing?
So yeah, it's a really solid kind of network. And again, I'm sure from a property market and an NAR and there's presumably an Australian version as well. Yeah, they're actually knitting those organizations together through these prop techs too. So yeah, I think it's really exciting and just great to see people investing in technology. Hugely.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got next up a claim for the world's first conversational voice AI for real estate agents. Again, a bit of a claim from down under. We were talking off air about this, about the world first conversational voice AI, and without over claiming that model prop has already got one out there. Always exciting to see other people certainly doing this sort of AI conversation because it's
Isn't it Model Prop who's just done some sort of tie-up with the FIA as well in one of the other articles?
yeah, 100%. Yes. So the Federation of Independent Agents, looking forward to their conference on the 4th of July and presenting there once I've done my slides, which we might come back to. Yes.
Absolutely. But in terms of the story around Propic, so Propic I've been aware of for probably even since my time down in Australia back in 2018. David Choi, who was formerly of Domain, their sort of second largest portal, went along as a strategic advisor, and they were dealing with AI long before AI was the buzzword, the hot topic of every single conversation you ever have, ever, anywhere. And they had a AI powered platform called Claire, which was your assistant as a property manager that you could ask an Echo or an Amazon. Well,
Did the AI in the middle of Claire, was that capitalized?
it wasn't capitalized at the time, no, but I feel like it should have a hashtag or an emoji in there, doesn't it? But it was right at the start, so it was you could ask your Alexa or your Google, whatever the Google equivalent of Alexa is.
I don't think anybody
Home,
knows.
Google Home, is it?
It
No,
was
that's
yeah,
Apple.
Google Assistant, wasn't it? I think it's
Yeah, one of those things. You could ask questions about your rental properties and your property management, and you could log maintenance tasks and do various things. So they were right at the cutting edge, but back in, I guess, 2018, 2019, and they've now made this claim that model proper disparaging to be the first. I'm sure in the small print it says something like the first in a very small region of New South Wales, maybe, or maybe it's
oh,
because they
the
support 58 languages, whichever one it is that ticks the box. But it's interesting because I do feel that over there AI was being talked about quite a long time before it suddenly hit our geography. And some of the products, Rita is another one that's been acquired as part of, I think it's the Property Technology Group down there acquired that and consolidated. So there's some interesting products kicking around in that Australian, New Zealand market.
Yeah, and look, I've been speaking to loads and loads of agents over the last few weeks, and often it comes up that the Australians are a little bit ahead and they've got more money, they're able to charge more, blah blah blah. So yeah, it does seem to be a lot more of a kind of hotbed of a good place to nurture these kind of ideas that perhaps over here are less able to get traction just because there's less money to.
Bigger fees as well.
Exactly that, absolutely, and yeah, the ability for vendor paid advertising to cover things off as well is obviously interesting as well. Alrighty, that is our property news for this week. Let's dive deep into AI and tech news. All right, this week, I think we touched on it because it just landed when we did our kind of together podcast last week. Mary Meeker, absolute legend, who basically did her annual internet report every year up until about 6 years ago, something like that. She's back and she's got another monster, a beast of a report that essentially has instantly become the touchstone and the go-to source for all things about AI now. Any particular sort of headlines or highlights that you picked out, Matt?
Just for me, it almost feels like we need to have an entire podcast on its own to go through the detail and the content for this. But the fact that it is the biggest thing since the internet, we've had digitization and the expectations around it. And I think one of the comments about the internet was nobody expected it to be as big as it was going to be. People were quite disparaging towards it. And I still stumble across or come across people who really think AI is a fad and will disappear off. And just the Mega report, really, as you say, it's been 6 years since the last one. And to be back there, and it wasn't focused on AI, right? It's an internet trends report. That's how she started. She was Merrill Lynch when she did that. And back in 2019, she had that internet trends. And here it is again, pulling out and calling into play what we all know, or most people know, is a big change in of just the way that we work, right? It's the latest, what is the next industrial revolution?
Yeah, and it's always good to have these things to go back to because some of the predictions will obviously be wildly inaccurate, both positive and negative. But it's yeah, there are some really decent stats in here about how people are using it already, where it's one of the drivers of this behavioral as well as economic. So yeah, I think that this is going to be the kind of go-to every year. We'll go back and check it and see where it's gone. But yes, the kind of big takeout from this is very much. Look, this is going to be the next wave. Understanding it is the first almost responsibility of all of us
Mm,
to get to understand what this means for us, for our families, for our kids, for the future, and our businesses. Because yeah, if you get it right, then you've seen some of the amazing businesses that came out of the kind of internet age. This is going to be, as you said, the next industrial age, and
yeah.
it's going to be
And
fun.
you asked me there as well, sort of anything specific that I call out there, but I think a couple of things that not stand out to me, but reiterate what you and I have been talking about for a while. And it almost feels so long now that it should be a thing, and we're still waiting for it. But this whole idea of agentic AI as co-workers, not just tools, becoming autonomous, almost getting on and working in the way that we expect co-workers to do, and you almost have agentic AI sitting alongside and managing those co-workers for you. And obviously, we were at the Property Academy last week in Newark together, and we did a podcast from there. And anyone can go back and watch that one from that delightful butterfly room that we were in, or the
Matt,
map room. Sorry, we chose the map room, not the butterfly room. But this agentic piece is, I think we struggle until we see these things in action to really understand how they're going to work. And Ian Preston talked about the digital valuations that he's got agentic AI working on, and a manager of these people who can hire and fire and replace them. And until you actually see it in your real world and it's something tangible, it's almost a case of, is this a thing? And so agentic was called out as a big ticket item. And also people's strategy around this. I still hear a number of people saying, what is your AI strategy? It's not your AI strategy, but what is your business strategy with AI pieced into all of it?
yeah, it's almost like yeah, trying to talk about sort of human strategy. It's actually that's a big chunk of the business. So yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that the way that we all talk about AI and agentic AI, AI's position in the business will become just like you're talking about, like digital and all that sort of thing. One of the things I can't remember which business it was, and it's going to bug me, but they've actually it's a big, huge multinational, and they've actually merged their HR. So instead of having a head of people or a chief people officer and chief technical officer, they've merged them together now. So actually, you've got
Oh,
chief tech and person officer because that resource, i.e., the doing, they see as being part human and part AI now. So actually, that function is
like a
overseen.
cyborg,
Yeah, yes. Not sure we're going to get quite there yet. Although,
Robocop.
yeah, if you
Back
are
to Robocop again.
yeah, if you are in 2027 coming back and listening to this, honestly, you'll be laughing because you know that's what's happened. But yes, it is this just idea that actually you'll have orchestrators, as I think that people more and more are talking about, orchestrators sitting, humans sitting above the whole groundswell of AI agents doing different things. And that they see as just basically being one function now. So the tech
Mm.
and the human, the personnel side. So just really interesting. I'm sure that's going to happen a lot more as well as we go deeper into this AI age. Right, next up, we did just want to touch on it because people were talking about it quite a lot, although it seems to have died down just a little bit. Musk versus Trump. There was a big spat that blew up on Thursday, actually, last week, where Musk and Trump were basically live trolling each other from the White House and from Musk towers and yeah, just basically blowing up the world economy at the same time. There is a tech angle to this from XAI. So XAI is Musk's AI business that runs Grok and various other bits and pieces. And yes, it's looking a little bit shaky because it's got some debt, and anything that impacts on people's willingness to finance that debt is going to impact on his ability to deliver AI to the level that we want.
It's not just some debt. Was it 5 billion? 1.5 more, and he could buy Johnny Ive's business to do whatever it is that Johnny Ive's going to be doing now. Little lumps of AI tools. But it's as you say, it's not. We don't do politics, but the fact that there's now these threats on having the various contracts removed as well, and obviously that's more on maybe it's the SpaceX side of things, but it's quite a significant spat when you've got the only space rockets from America are being done by Elon Musk, and they're having that fallout. And even his dad weighed in on the saw on the telly last night. But it's certainly significant, and when he's doing these wooden dollars of selling XAI to X or the other way around and moving his various chess pieces on the board. That is Musk, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, there's other things like conspiracy theories saying no, they're not really fighting. It's just 5D chess. All right, we'll see how all that pans out. But yes, just in all seriousness, Grok is a very important frontier model used by many millions of people around the world, and has managed to come up and produce some cutting edge things from a relatively standing start a few years ago. So yeah, so anything that kind of starts to peel away at that business is going to impact on AI overall. And if it does start to teeter and then fall, then that's one less competitor in the market for the likes of OpenAI and Google, which has the potential to just increase prices, right, and leave them as over dominant. So see how that all plays out. Talking about OpenAI, we have news that they are focusing even more on the business side of things. They've got 3 million business users now. And they've released some business features that allow you to plug your OpenAI, so your ChatGPT, into your business tools.
That's it. So I think that the two main ones is connectors. So it is very much that enterprise space they're going after. And I know we've got a comment about what Microsoft are doing, and maybe not in retaliation to that, but maybe in expectance around that with their restructuring later on. But connectors very much going and allowing you to connect your Gmails, your Google Drives, your OneDrives up to ChatGPT, so suddenly you can start accessing that raft of information you would have on your enterprise documentation, HubSpot, SharePoint, all these different pieces, which has been obviously the sort of the focus of Microsoft Copilot and others up until now. So really gunning for that top end. And the other one is record mode, it being the second feature, which is again I say again, we talked about this off air, so it's where OpenAI, maybe even all the sort of big AI businesses, there's consolidation going on where companies have started off and launched their entrepreneur businesses focused on a very specific area of it. So whether it's Otter AI as an example or Fathom for now, record mode is coming along and potentially looking to take a part of their crown as this overarching platform that you subscribe to.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we discussed off air, but yeah, if you are a business that has essentially what they call a wrapper, so something that is ChatGPT just with a thin layer over the top of it that does things like write meeting notes or access your calendar and stuff like that, then this is exactly where these guys are pushing out into right now. Yeah, if you think from a business perspective, if you wanted to be able to just ask your AI, ask ChatGPT while you're in the car, what's on my calendar for the next couple of weeks, then it will run you through those. How much gap have I got between this meeting and that meeting? Who is this person? What's our CRM record for them when I go and meet them? You're going to be able to just chat through so much now with this connector. It's really smart. What they're trying to do obviously is make it just your default go-to everything. And once that gets stuck in and gets sticky, then you're just not going to move because it will know so much about you. It'll be like just your default for everything. Yeah, I think it's going to be a big part of their development and a big part of how we as business users, business owners, run our businesses going forward. And we will expect our teams to be using this really hyper efficient way of sourcing data internally. And I think that's going to be super exciting and super efficient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move quickly on to some more Microsoft stuff. And again, as you say, that I think they're all they're all vying for a bit of headline, aren't they? And trying to spike each other's guns a bit. But we've got the LinkedIn chief. So Microsoft, as most people know, own LinkedIn and also Office. And the LinkedIn chief has done so well that he's now bumped up to running the whole of Office, which includes likes of Word and Excel and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, quite a big shift, and kind of shows again that Microsoft is serious about keeping pace with some of the others.
That's it, and it's interesting to see more prominent names in this because up until now it's been Mustafa Suleyman, who came in from, was it DeepMind, as the CEO of Microsoft AI, and it seems that's part of this rejig. He's been more focused on the consumer side of things. The new roles focused on their enterprise offering, which very much goes up against, as you say, spike the guns against OpenAI, but also there's been a lot of changes, hasn't there? Google's had a big restructuring of its business. Meta brought in the guy who'd done MetaQuest to deal with Llama and some others. So it's seeing who's succeeding. And even Apple, who've got their big event this week, have had people moving around and trying to rejig or revive Apple Intelligence.
Yes, there is the big Apple event this week, and again, me and Matt were talking about it earlier. It's just so underwhelming because they came so big a couple of years ago on AI
Some
stuff.
great marketing about it. I'm not sure if they came so big that they told us. It went right back to the iPod days, didn't it? Of U2 playing with a colourful promotional video.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And like you say, that they came on strong. They said this was going to change the world. Buy an Apple 16 because you must, blah. And now they're being sued by people who bought Apple 16s because the Apple Intelligence doesn't exist and is rubbish.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's a
fingers.
great name for it, though, isn't it? Take AI, make everyone think it's Apple Intelligence, not artificial.
I think the concept, as with many things, the concept is great. If they'd have landed the plane and actually made AI, their AI amazing, then they may well have been able to claim that ground. But yeah, now it's just a
Yeah.
leap.
Interestingly, on that, one of the things we talked about when Apple Intelligence did fall flat on its face and they pulled all those marketing videos and Siri was going to need a 3-year rebuild, we talked about the fact that Safari's AI overview was going to include Perplexity in there. And you saw an article about Perplexity this week, didn't you?
Yeah, so yeah, really fascinating. So Samsung with their phones, and they've got a huge chunk of the market, particularly over in Asia. They are shifting Google out of their default search on their browser and putting in Perplexity. It is reported this morning. So, that would have a significant impact on Google's kind of revenues on its default position as the search engine of choice for the world, and is a massive boost for Perplexity as well, who, let's not forget that they don't have their own model. They're using other models to do the searching, but the experience is so cool and fast. Samsung, it's reported, are going to get a big chunk of Perplexity in return, which you can imagine as well. But that just ties them both together, right? It means that actually Samsung are going to continue to promote Perplexity. Perplexity is going to continue to deliver and have the money to be able to do that over time. And yeah, from being, in my view, Perplexity, I thought they were in the sights of some of the other big guys that it looked like they might well be ones to fall by the wayside. They've now managed to do Samsung, and also, as you've said, Apple are looking at them as an option within the Safari browser on the phones as well.
Absolutely, but it'll be interesting to continue. I do think there's going to be some continuing consolidation with Windsurf obviously being acquired by OpenAI, but also to see how some of these other businesses hang on or even grow from these deals. And touching on OpenAI again, they're making a movie about it and the events around Sam Altman's firing and rehiring, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they've got ex Spider-Man Garfield, Andrew
Is he
Garfield.
X? He was in the multiverse one when three Spider-Mans all turned up. Is it Spider-Mans? Is the plural Spider-Man?
Man.
Spideys. Three Spideys turned up.
That's right. That's what all the fans are calling it. But yes, so he then became again, and then yes, he's been in various other things. British actor, really good. He was in The Social Network as well, randomly.
I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
he was in that. If you're going to make a biopic of somebody important in Silicon Valley, then he's your go-to. But yes, he's so yeah, lined up for this movie all about the firing of Sam Altman in November 23, something like that. And then rehiring very quickly because everyone decided to go on strike, and Microsoft basically cried itself to sleep about how it was going to get any of its money back. So yes, looking forward to that. I think it's going to be interesting. I thought The Social Network was all right. I underwhelmed a bit, but then it wasn't very sympathetic characters. And maybe this will be the same. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll look at Sam Altman and go, it's not very sympathetic character, is he?
Yeah, thank you to Amazon for making what's going to be your Christmas Day film in 3 years' time.
Absolutely. All right, we just wanted to touch on this. What has happened is Morgan Stanley have had these outdated systems forever. All right, built on in a language called Cobalt, and it's a perennial problem for many tech businesses and perhaps agents who've built their own sort of CRMs along the way. It's just that the second you build it, then you just got to maintain it, and then at what point do you actually go and redo it, or how do you redo it, particularly when languages change, when technology improves so much and you're stuck with this really basic code. Morgan Stanley have used AI to essentially go back through their entire code base and rewrite it in modern code that allows them to have the same functionality and indeed not have to retrain their teams so much, but then suddenly have this platform that is now able to grow. And Matt, I think this is something that you're really focused on.
No, very much. And it's one that I actually shared with, as you alluded to there, an agency this week that's got its own in-house CRM. And it's not just, I think, those in-house CRMs. When you take on the responsibility for building something and developing it, you often think about the shiny new thing that's going to have all your features at the start, but you don't necessarily consider the ongoing requests and demands and iterations you need for internal people, but also compliance and the change in legislation. That's all assuming that You're not looking at the fact that Cobalt, as an example, I met someone on the train back from Edinburgh last weekend who stopped developing 20 years ago, and the language he developed in was Cobalt. It's getting to that stage where these developers are now retiring or have already retired, and it still underpins a lot of our financial institutions. And it was a case of that's not just obviously from the financial sector, although with client accounting, I learned a lot of the skeletons that were sitting under the banking industry and the challenges we had, but we've also obviously got them in our industry, and the ability to, and this is an amazing case study from Morgan Stanley, use AI to understand that code base, help rewrite it, and therefore get all the new modern best practice development techniques in without having to rewrite. As just using it as an example, Reapit's what, 25 years old, 28 years old now. And that's a lot of business logic that you've got to consider. No one wants a new product that doesn't do what the old one did. And you need to make sure you've got that consistency. And you look around at a number of the CRMs that have been put out to pasture, if they were modern code, something like CMR Radar as an example, I think that I don't know what MRI are doing that these days, but it's a great product at the time. But if its code could be brought up to date and maintained more efficiently, I've actually got a client who is a fairly new business in terms of age compared to some of the stalwarts we deal with, but they've decided to rewrite their entire platform from scratch using AI so that the AI going forward can maintain it. And it's not just the business logic and the code, but the infrastructure and the architecture, the lot. So Morgan Stanley's case study there of how to adopt it and work on these things. And we talked about in one of the very early pods how one company was feeding the code through one large language model, getting the rewritten code and then putting it through another one to review it. And this is a great example of that. But there's also tools out there that are helping people with this. Put a link in for Blitzy, which is a sort of an AI-powered autonomous software development platform that you can hook up to your code base, and we'll go through it with a swarm of agents, documenting, understanding, and therefore helping you start to write the code going forward rather than you needing to re-architect it in a way that sort of the large language models can use going forward.
Yeah, Blitzy, Blitzzy. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I think about some of the challenges we've had, the sort of national challenges with these antiquated IT systems in our government and these various challenges, NHS and things like that, where they've ever tried to introduce new IT systems, everything's broken and defaulted still to these sort of bandaged up old ones. So yeah, if this can help those systems to become incredibly more efficient, then yeah, that's going to be another big saving and another great boon of the internet age. Sorry, the AI age even. All right, finally, we will move from our AI tech news this week to our AI tool of the week. This is Manus AI, and it's introduced Manus slides. Now, I have a personal beef with AI slide producers because I've tried them millions of times and they've always just been really quite disappointing. You've got Copilot with PowerPoint, you've got loads of others, you've got Tone, Beautiful AI, things like that. And never have I found one that actually, when you say, I've got a presentation to do for the Federation of Independent Agents on the 4th of July. And I haven't done it because not because I've been slagging. So can you just create it? And these are the things I want to cover and blah, blah, blah. And he goes away and does it. But that time is here, right? With Manus.
Absolutely. And this isn't just a YouTube video, which I'm sure we can stick in the show notes. And it's not just us reading the press release and saying it sounds good. So Manus is a Chinese agentic AI, I could almost call it, given some of the work that we've had it working on that we talked about previously. If you've not checked it out, is Manus, Manus, and well worth reviewing. But they've now released, I suppose, its latest product offering for them, which is the Manus slides. And I actually trialed it last Sunday for a relocation agent network presentation I had on the Monday. And so it was a very basic prompt saying what I wanted to cover. And it wasn't just created a PDF and some text with bullet points or even needing to prompt it again to go find images that were relevant, but it actually produced really quite beautiful slides that with designs that I wouldn't even ever considered, packaged it all up very nicely, and I had a couple of iterations on it, but it was all very basic prompts. Came out as you could download it as a Google presentation, what was Google Slides, or transfer it to PowerPoint, but it really was like a few minutes work to create a 5-6 slide deck, which would have previously taken maybe an hour and a half put together.
Yeah, 100%. And this is something that I think increasingly the pain points that we all face have been too hard in the too hard bucket for so long to be able to use this. And those that come along to the tour that I'm doing, we use Manus in that as well. So
Are you doing a tour?
Have I mentioned it?
You
Yeah,
might
maybe I
want
haven't
to
said.
reiterate that.
Maybe I haven't said. We're doing the Rhyme with Resistance tour. We're currently on meeting 12, I think, of the 60. Yes, so modelprop.ai/resist. Anyway, yes, Manus is just so good. And as you say, Matt, it is an agentic AI. It will go away and do some amazing things. So the fact that you can now use it to create these PowerPoints obviously is going to help all of us, but particularly me, to make sure that I get my presentation slides closer to the on time than ever before.
Yeah, and the URL for that is Manus, so manus.im. I held off going Vic, so I wasn't quite sure what the full URL was, but manus.im, well worth checking out.
All right, guys, that is it for this week. Matt, thank you very much indeed. Really good to see you.
Thanks very much. Where are you heading off to next?
So I'm actually back with the Property Academy, their Millionaire Roadshow, AI Roadshow. Do come along. This is going to be released too late for today, the 10th of June. Tomorrow, 11th of June, it's in Wokingham area, so Berkshire. So do get along to that. Amazing stuff you can learn there, right? And how to get from 500,000 to 1 million per branch using some great tools, and yeah, some really great people there. So hope to see some people there tomorrow. Yes, what about you, Matt? What's your plans for this week?
Salesforce Agentforce in the Excel over in East London tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. General Day on Wednesday and Developer Day Thursday, and then at Property Mark 1 on Friday back at the Excel. So 3 days at the Excel. I should probably just camp out on a little dinghy there or something.
Cheers. All right, enjoy. Take it easy. We'll see.
Have a lovely week.
Yeah, enjoy.